In 2024, 54% of adults in America read below a 6th grade level.
In 2021, second and third graders were about 30% behind in reading fluency compared to pre-pandemic levels.
Only 40% of Minnesota public school students meet or exceed the state's grade level standards in reading.
85% of juvenile offenders have low literacy skills.
Children who can't read proficiently by the end of third grade are more likely to experience poor health, become teen parents, or drop out of high school. As adults, they're more likely to spend time in prison, struggle with unemployment, and face shorter life expectancies. Are you okay with that?
The very institution and the system and the structure that's created to educate has not educated.
This is generations, centuries of students either being included in the education experience or excluded in the educational experience. It's one thing to allow all students through the doors of a school, but it's another thing to open the door to learning.
There's a crisis. Children don't have the reading skills necessary for lifelong learning. And so I would say that we have a crisis, both in the country and in St. Paul Public Schools.
Many people are shocked when I talk about the literacy crisis that we're experiencing. Most people that I talk to are not aware of any of the data related to reading, especially not in a place like Minnesota that has one of the best educational systems in the United States. They think about their own reading experience, their own children, or someone else that they know, and they say, hey, that issue is over there. It's not my issue. But I believe if it's something that impacts you, it also impacts me.
The latest report is that 32.7% of fourth graders are proficient readers. 95% of children are able to learn how to read using practices that are backed by the science of reading. One of the things we talk about that keeps us up at night is when you think about 95% versus 32.7%, and just that discrepancy in and of itself really shows the need for us to act.
1 in 4 American children can't read at grade level by the 3rd or 4th grade, increasing their likelihood of dropping out of school by 4 times, then also increasing their likelihood to be arrested or incarcerated by 3.5 times, because the vast majority of the folks who are incarcerated cannot read. And if we talk about this as a broader community commitment to literacy in our own futures, we know then that we're spending in the state of Minnesota almost $30,000 more on incarceration than we are on K through 12 education.
We could have such a different outcome if we focused on literacy at a young age and made sure that all young people can access information and feel included.
Reading equates to liberation. Once you learn how to read, freedom is yours. So of course, if we look at the history of America, restrictions in access to reading and education have been a part of our foundation, and in particular for the African American experience. Because if you want to keep a people away from their full potential, the possibilities, allow them not to imagine, allow them not to create, restrict their access to their ability to think, to organize for change, to fight for their rights. Oh, there's a historical link on restricting access to reading. It's undeniable.
Fast forward now to modern day. Oh, we're going to take these books that tell you about your history, your culture, all these people that went through these things. We don't want you to know. How is it not an equity issue?
Today, you're more likely to see a book with a black bear or a black dog on the cover than a black boy or a black girl. We still have work to do to change this.
Being able to read should be a civil right. It's a human right. It is extremely problematic that we're at this place and point. How did this come to be? Who was not given that right? And who is greatly impacted now? And what I deeply know and hold, if that was the case for mostly white children, it would not be an issue. And so it is a grave inequity because it is possible. And we need to think about why we believe it's impossible and why do we believe it's impossible for some.
St. Paul Public Schools, any school district that I'm in, where do you tend to find the African American students, and especially the African American boys, outside of the classroom, in the principal's office?
If primarily the Black and brown children are sent out of class when they're learning their letters, their alphabets, their sounds, their blends, that's why you got a reading problem.
And when we other students based on skills and supports that they're not provided because of us, we're part of the problem. We really are.
We really all have responsibility. We are all to blame.
The challenges are many when balancing how to create the conditions for successful student learning consistently.
Most people say that it's related to the individual, and do they have the capacity, do they have the interest, the family, the zip code. At the core of the reading crisis and the challenge that we're facing is much bigger than that.
It's very difficult to provide differentiated instruction for a class of 29 students, especially as they get older. When you're teaching first and second grade, the difference in achievement is not that wide, but as they hit fourth and fifth grade, you may have kindergarten readers and eighth grade readers. And you're trying to meet all of those needs, but you just don't seem to have enough time.
When you think about a child, a young person who's in a classroom, and they know they're not going to be successful, you can think of all the other things that they might, demonstrate their lack of engagement.
Well, students who have trouble with literacy, a lot of them, you will see behavior issues because they aren't going to let anyone find out they can't read. So they try to distract you and their peers. A lot of kids will guess. Some kids are really good at hearing their peers, and a millisecond after their peers say something, they say it. You almost can't tell that they're repeating. They're afraid to be found out.
It could be attendance. Why would I come to school if I don't understand? How do I feel about myself if I go into this class every day and I don't understand a thing and there's no support for me? There's no way for a teacher, support staff, principal, guidance counselor to see I'm different. I don't learn this way. I need help. St. Paul Public Schools has been here for about 160 years. And yet, very little has changed over that time. If we continue to do school in the same way, same schedule, same rigidity, same length of time, same length of school year, why would we ever expect to get different results? The educational system is set up for literacy to be part of it, but it's not set up to be the foundation for everything that we do. So in many ways, in order for us to address literacy in our school district, we have to completely change the structure, with literacy being the gateway to all learning.
Well, using curriculum that is based in the science of reading is the first step. We are not wired neurologically to read, so it has to be explicitly taught. We are wired for oral communication. All societies have communicated orally, but reading and writing is fairly new. It's estimated reading and writing started maybe 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, and that was just for a select few. The masses weren't exposed to reading or writing until the printing press was invented, and that was only 600 years ago. So our brains are full of cells called neurons, and they send out chemical and electrical signals and then make connections. In reading, it doesn't just automatically happen. You have to explicitly teach it and practice it. In English, we have a very complicated system. For example, the letter Y, in the word yellow, it's pronounced ye, but at the end of a one-syllable word like cry, it has the long I sound, and at the end of a multisyllabic word like baby or eternity, it has the long E sound. If you don't explicitly teach that, the majority of students aren't going to just get it by looking at books or listening to books.
What the science of reading is not. It is not materials. It's not a philosophy or an ideology. It is using what we know about how kids learn to read and applying those practices inside the classroom and not taking anything to chance.
The science of reading is that body of research. And then when we talk about what does that look like in practice, that's really structured literacy. The most widely accepted practice, if you will, was balanced literacy. Some of the things that stand out that are different, that balanced literacy was really more focused on asking children to guess in some cases, or talking more about memorization, or really leaning more into like pictures and illustrations to figure out words, versus what we know now to be more evidence-based is really focusing on the print. And part of the thing that we unpacked ourselves, as well as with other educators, it was very emotional, like to realize and look back and say, I may have been teaching reading in a way that was not effective, realizing that I may have done a disservice to students along the way. So we did talk a lot about that and address that in terms of we have to give each other grace. We have to just take what we know now and move forward. Like there's the quote, when you know better, you do better.
And so then we made a shift just a few years ago, and our district purchased a science of reading based phonics program, and we're already seeing the results.
It's also important to note that Minnesota, like dozens of other states, have passed state laws to make the science of reading the curriculum for their states.
The READ Act is currently in effect and essentially replaces what was formerly known as Read Well by third grade. The statute says all students in Minnesota should be able to read at grade level by the end of whichever grade level they're in, starting in kindergarten.
There's a level of accountability that hasn't been here by our Minnesota Department of Education. There are dollars connected to literacy incentive aid and the money that we use that will ensure that teachers are getting what they need. The district is using the right materials.
The legislation ensures that teachers are trained in the science of reading. It gives us time to do this. It gives us some support to do it, but it doesn't lay out the roadmap like St. Paul Public Schools has already done. We're about 2 years into our strategic plan, SPPS Achieves, and it was pretty clear that literacy and reading for all students, which is highlighted in that plan, was not happening. Well, then 2020 happened. In St. Paul Public Schools, we had a 5-day teacher strike that went right into the pandemic. So our students were out of school from on or around March 5th, 2020 to, for some, more than a year. We also received incredible federal aid at the time, $206.9 million. And part of that was to be addressing learning loss. What the American Rescue Plan didn't do is factor in the 50 years prior to the pandemic. There's this notion that the pandemic caused all this learning loss, and, we're looking at data that's very alarming to some. Many of us can also say, no, this is really the same as it's been, for a long time. Certainly it might have dipped during the pandemic, but the trend lines really aren't that different at all. So for us, we invested quite simply in a strategy called WIN, What I Need Now. And what I need now was our call to action around literacy. So we hired 84 teachers. They're working with students each and every day in small groups. Some right in the classroom, you wouldn't even know that it's any different from their classroom instruction. The benefits of this have been just incredible. We're seeing rates of growth and aggressive growth that are far outpacing where we were before we were using this strategy.
We had a whole community of people that were really ready and wanting to make those changes in instruction, recognizing that our data has been flat. What we were doing and how we were doing it wasn't yielding the results that we actually really wanted, even though we were putting our heart and soul and everything we had into what we were doing. I think that's why we have been so successful with it, is because it has not been the district top down. You're going to do this because we're telling you to do this. We're doing this together because we know it's right for kids.
Truthfully, I don't know if we'd be here where we are today without the pandemic, and how hard is that to actually say that? But it's the truth, because $206.9 million, knowing that a lot of that has been spent to support this strategy, I don't know that we would have been able to do it without that support.
Well, and I would say we're in the process of making shifts. So it's a continuum.
One of my greatest hopes is that we come to a place in St. Paul Public Schools where we no longer have high school students that are not proficient in reading.
There's a term in Swahili, Harambe. Some interpret it as it means let's all pull together. But others describe it as a greeting, that Harambe can also mean how are the children? When they asked Harambe as a question, how are the children? The response that they were expecting of vitality of a community, strength and power, would be that you'd say the children are well. So a part of what I hope we can think about is where are our priorities? And if our priorities are for the children, I think we have to ask ourselves, how are the children?
What can you tell me about Lavana?
Lavana is very loving. Definitely a trip. I love her. She's super, she's talented. She just has to find ways to express that, and I think a lot of people don't get her because she's so advanced, but, you know, she has a lot going for her. I love her.
Hi, I'm Lavana and I'm 12. I like to play volleyball for fun.
I have 4 biological kids, but then I claim, a good 7. Just playing.
Oh my God, hold on. Cut up the kielbasa.
When Lavana first started receiving wind instruction, she was not at the greatest level. I honestly had concerns with dyslexia at that point. Phonics skills were not really there. When it came to processing and learning, it just wasn't clicking like rapid fire like it does, with other children. The individual structured learning and time that she was receiving has helped her immensely. My daughter's confidence went up. I think she's went up 4 levels in a matter of a year.
I thought that was a class for really bad readers, but it was just to really help people read more and become better at reading. She taught me vowels and how to pronounce stuff and breaking down words. Just looking up the words, it all made me mess up reading, and I just couldn't read before.
Have you ever been caught reading by your mom?
Yeah, I have. She got scared. I was reading on the couch and she walked in, she walked away. And she was like, "You're reading. That's scaring me."
Why do you think it was scaring her?
Because I don't read at home at all. Well, I didn't back then, but now I kind of do.
Yeah, I'm lucky to get 4 hours still.
Where's your dance? Dance. Tori, you couldn't do this. I want you.
Currently, I'm a night auditor at a hotel, so my job allowed us to move into the hotel, and I just try to make it look like summer vacation for the kids. Hey, it's the summertime, go swim, have fun, and I just try to give them the best summer vacation without really acknowledging the homeless factor. Our family motto is together we can get through anything.
If one of us is down, then we're all down. And if one of us is happy, we're all happy. It just means whatever one person is going through, we're all are.
Have you had any kind of big downs lately?
Our house situation. Most people think that it's not cool to be in a hotel all the time, but you just have to be grateful for what you have, because when you don't have it, you're like, why wasn't I grateful for having this? And I'm just grateful I have a roof over my head right now.
My day really doesn't have a beginning or end. I work third shift, 11 at night to 7 in the morning. I maybe average between 2 and 4 hours of sleep a day, so I rush, go get the kids, start dinner around 6, 7 o'clock, getting ready for their day the next day by 8, 9 o'clock. Then about 10, I'm in the shower. By 10:30, I'm out the door, headed to work. Get off at 7 in the morning, get them ready for school. They're in school by 8:30, and then I'm running back home, and I could be possibly going to sleep, and then, yeah, it starts a whole new day.
I think she needs to sleep more, and sometimes she's okay, but she needs to get a different job or work over the day.
She don't want it. She gonna leave it on the table too long. People want to take it.
I didn't see.
Wait a minute. I love the fact that she's excited about books now. Instead of her thinking that, oh, I have to be in this class because I can't do it, because I can't think, because I can't read, because I can't focus. I wanted her to know she's going through this because she can. You can do everything, and you will.
Hi, I'm Quentin and I'm 7 years old. I like making like sets and stuff, like Lego sets and like cars because I have a toy Lamborghini and I like to set those up and take pictures of them.
What kind of stuff do you do at the park?
We like to do parkour.
I'll come there in a minute, okay? Whoa! Okay, a couple more times, all right? Ready?
At home, it's me, Quentin, and his brother, Elray. Elray is 4 and Quentin is 7. And they're kind of my team. They are the people in my life who get the best and the worst of me.
Does he say go high or don't go too high? Go high. Go high?
Quentin is hilarious, and he's very intuitive and pays a lot of attention to things, especially socially. He asks a lot of questions. He's curious. He's adventurous and imaginative. It's interesting to have conversations with him. I am a therapist, and I typically work with youth ages like 12 to 24. When I was working in child protection, I started to realize very quickly that the employees there did not represent the community. And there was a moment at home where I must have been yelling at the kids or something like that, and Quentin stopped and was like, if you're not mad at us, why are you always yelling at us? And I was just like, oh, I'm sorry, that's because I'm just angry. He humbles me a lot and gets to call me out quite a bit. I see where my unhealed parts are. Me and his dad tried to make it work because we both come from divorced parents. And, you know, we wanted to give Quentin a family. It didn't work out because we just weren't a man. Like, it just was what it was. And his dad is actually married now, and at his dad's house, it is a, you know, it's a 2-parent home, and he's the youngest. Whereas at my house, it is me, and he's the oldest. Quentin kind of lives in 2 different worlds. When Quentin started receiving WIN instruction, I wasn't fully aware of that, and talking with the WIN instructor and seeing how much she adores Quentin, it seemed like he really got to build a bond with her. And Quentin was a kid that struggled with parting from me. He would cry a lot last year. And so to see
that he's building like quality relationships, especially with the adults here and teachers here, because again, that can be a hit or miss experience, and the fact that he's gotten that, I'm grateful for. And yeah, I think it's great that he got that and was able to be himself, because I think that's when Quentin thrives, is when he is allowed to be himself.
Let me see your earrings. Oh my goodness, so cool. So I have a question. Do you have a hole in your ear or no? Are they clip-ons? Hey, good morning. Have a good day.
They're clip-ons, but I'm getting my ears pierced for Christmas.
For Christmas, you're gonna get your ears pierced? Oh my goodness, that's so exciting. All right, I'll see you later. Have a great day.
Once a week, we would get papers and we would write stories at the end, and then and at the first part we would write letters. So it would be like letters, stories. No, it would be like letters, words, stories.
And how does it make you feel when you finish a book? When you do it?
I feel proud.
There have been times that I've caught Quentin after bedtime reading or looking at books. One thing that is newer that Quentin does is he will ask me about spelling words, but he doesn't just ask. He guides it and is like, okay, how do you spell this word? And then he actually pays attention. He enjoys writing things down, and so I think once he was able to actually spell some words, he was very excited about that. There was one time when his brother was going in his room that said stay out of his room. He got to put that up all on his own and was super proud of himself.
My hopes for Quentin are that he gets to be himself, no matter where he is or who he's around, and that he gets to be curious, explorative person that he is. Being a part of the WIN program and being able to read, I think that is a huge doorway. So I hope that he gets to open more doors because of it.
Girl, you hitting that note, girl. Yes.
Hi, I'm Jordan and I'm 7.
What are your favorite subjects?
Everything at school.
You like everything about school?
Yes.
Ooh, stitch, itch.
I don't know why everybody at school literally was wearing a stitch. Yeah.
Hello. So y'all know where y'all, what you gotta do?
I met William through the school district.
She used to come to the school to read to the kids with U.S. Bank. And so I made it a point to go by. I was like, oh, you're reading. Oh, okay.
So you
nice
used to come
see
in there
you.
and act like you wanted to read to the kids and wasn't even answering.
No, I was using the kids. And they was a good prop, which is us having 2 wonderful children together. So it worked.
Yeah.
They're going to have to wear shades when they look up to catch your shine.
Yes, girl.
Jordan is just a ball of life. She's someone that you want to have around. She's someone that I enjoy having in my presence. She's just a loving, kind, sweet little girl.
We always say, if she's not smiling, something's wrong. She loves a challenge.
Yeah.
She challenges her big brothers, sisters, whoever, all of the time. Like she is that child that wants to know. You can't give her a problem, and if it's too hard, and we say, okay, forget it. She don't want to forget it.
Yeah.
She's gonna keep us there until she solves it.
I already read a half verse. Maybe I should just read Chapter 1. George and
When they first came to us, we were talking and trying to figure out, why is our daughter being pulled out? Because we know our daughter. We like, wait, we didn't see her on no low scale or anything like that. In my mind, being the minority father, I'm just like, wait, I don't want my child being labeled.
My thing was, if she needed the help, I trust that the teachers know what they're doing. And so from what I was told with her teacher is that when they identify small things, that they jump on it right away. And I'm glad that they were ahead of it versus it being something that wasn't caught. But she was a little behind, and it was more so to get her caught up, you know, to grade level. And whatever she needed, whether it was help with her vowels, you know, sounding words out, I was on board for it, and she took off.
I felt so like nervous at first, but then when she started getting us, I concentrated and I listened to her, and it felt great.
Say the word beef.
Beef.
Now say beef, but instead of E, say
Buff.
Buff. Say the
When I'm trying to sound out a word, I can't sound out because it has too many letters. And then I just ask my teacher for help, because then they'll be like, you can sound out this, just break that, and then break that, and then you can solve the word. It makes me feel like I know the word better, because it makes me feel happy that I learned the word, because at first I didn't learn the word, but now I can do it over again, and now I don't have to spend my time on just that word.
I was being pulled out into small groups that helped me with my speech impediment. And now I'm a professional radio personality and DJ, and I'm an educator as well.
You're welcome. Okay, but y'all, you know, so who's gonna start off, Grace? Jordan?
Lord Father, thank you for the school that we're about to receive. Please bless the hands that prepared them, Father. The schools are not familiar with seeing fathers, let alone Black fathers, being present in education and being part of their educational life. And so for me, just being able to be there and, you know, mom would say, hey, call dad, you know, and shockingly someone would be like, oh, that looked like, oh, there's a dad? Yeah, there's a dad. There's an active father. There's a Black father that is completely invested in the education of our children. And so that's what I love being about, being a parent, just crushing that narrative, because we already know it's that stigma that, oh, there's two parents, there's two parents.
What I love about being a parent is that I can pour into my children and just love on them. I love having conversations with my children. And what I love about Jordan is, like, she's very expressive, like when she talks. When she talked about these certain staffs and teachers that were in her life that was actively involved on the education aspect, she would light up, her eyes are bright. And so I knew that there was a bond, a connection there. And it's so important to have that staff and student connection, because with that, it opens the door for them to be able to be more creative and to learn.
We have to sit here and build those relationships. Like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. And this village is really helping raise our children.
Try and read these words before you leave, okay?
Dead.
Is it dead or is it
Dead.
That's why we don't want to mix up the t and the d sound, right? Because if you say Ted instead of t and put d, it becomes dead, right?
When St. Paul Schools heard that we were awarded such a large amount of money to support COVID relief, my supervisor said, we have an opportunity to do something to support instruction in literacy. And I'm thinking the biggest thing that most teachers ask for is time. And so hiring an additional literacy teacher or reading teacher then allows all children to have small group differentiated instruction every single day.
My name is Angela Burcham. I'm the WIN literacy teacher for St. Paul Public Schools, and I teach reading small groups for kindergarten through second grade.
Because watch this.
It's gonna be the coolest curl ever. It's gonna be like, look at that. That is funky. It's like straight, it's like there. It's like, it's hardly going any, well, it kind of is gonna go somewhere. Outside of education, I'm passionate about my family.
Do you think the Wild will win today?
Depends on who's playing.
I was actually adopted. I lived in an orphanage for a while in Korea before I was adopted. And so I kind of know what it's like to have not started maybe in such great circumstances. I like to work with kids who like really maybe just need a little extra dose of love and assurance that there is hope. Because hair is like hope, it always grows back, right?
What about bald people? What?
There's no hope. There's no hope for
what?
I love the kids. I like to see their eyes light up when they're learning. I love their passion for life, and I just know that my calling was to be with children.
Are you ready to learn today? Oh yeah, give me a high five. Let's keep it alive with 5, all right. Make it an awesome day. Make it an amazing day.
Say the word own. Own. Let's say the sounds in the word own. 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 I meet with about 50 kids per day, and that would be 13 groups for 20 minutes per day. So I have a busy day, but it's fun. I love it. And at the end of the day, I feel like I've ran a marathon, 26.2 miles. Is that how long a marathon is? Yeah. It's a wonderful feeling.
I fall asleep at 8 p.m. and you cannot wake me. It's like a bear, right, honey? If you wake me up, it's scary. That's when you'll hear me growl.
And then the next day I do it again, and I feel like I improve my teaching. And the kids just kind of give me that energy to come back and be with them again, because they're eager to learn and I'm eager to teach them.
What's the word?
Rabbit.
Good.
I didn't like pasta. I'm done. Good.
Every child is different, and every child's need is different. So as a WIN teacher, I'm able to individualize instruction based on what their need is. There's a lot to juggle as a classroom teacher that's a little bit different than just academics. So I think as a WIN teacher, I'm able to focus more on the academic piece of reading versus a classroom teacher. You're not only focusing on the academic piece, but you're also focusing on the social and emotional piece.
Go ahead and write it.
There's a lot going on to be a decoder or to be able to read. You have to be able to understand what you're reading and connect meaning to it.
What's the word? Hiccup. Do you know what a hiccup is?
Yeah.
What's a hiccup?
When I'm asking them to do a new skill that is something they've never done before, it's kind of a little bit scary, and so you kind of feel a little bit shy until you feel more confident. All right, your word. Say the word hose.
Hose. Hose. Hose.
Now say hose, but don't say h.
Hose.
Now say hose, but don't say O's. Now say hose, but instead of h, say n.
Hose. Hose.
What is it?
Nose.
Nose, you're right. Good job. Each student, they have their own attitude, their own mind. So I think sometimes what keeps students from learning is fear that they're gonna fail. And so one of the things that I work with students is, you can do this. You can do this. I have full confidence that you can do this, and I want them to know that they're meeting with me not because I think they can't read, but because I believe they can read and they can do the work. The external thing, we can always make excuses for ourselves. Their home life, their attendance, their language. And at the end of the day, our situation is the way it is, and we can only do the best at what we can do. The drive that each student carries within themselves carries them a long way. And if you can internally motivate that child, the sky's the limit for them. The school year has been great. Many of my students came to me without knowing letter names or sounds, and what I'm seeing is they are able to read independently and decode words on their own, which for me is progress, because that's what we want at the end of the day. I don't want to be able to be their crutch. I want them to be independent readers.
They just get really excited about it because they weren't able to do that at the beginning of the year, and now they're able to do it. And so that is kind of exciting for them because it makes sense. It's not like a guessing game. It's like, I actually know this.
I get to help rewire the brain for students to be able to read. And that's why we do reading interventions, is because it doesn't happen naturally for students. But I don't know it all, because sometimes I try to rewire things and it just doesn't work. And it's like, oh, I wonder what's going on in their brain that I need to change to actually make the connection for them, so it's not so hard. But sometimes it's just hard for them at the beginning because they've never worked that part of their brain before. I always tell my students that we're doing exercises or training for our brain. And they love that. They're like, I think my brain is growing. Mrs. Bertram, I think my brain is growing. I can feel it. I feel it. They're super cute.
My name's Rosie MP. I teach Wynn Middle School at American Indian Magnet School. I am a word nerd. My mom's an English teacher, so books have kind of always been a part of my life. I'm kind of always looking deeply at how words work and how they impact us as humans.
This is kind of my go-to reading spot, or like working on homework or anything. Oh, it's pretty perfect.
Yeah, we're chill. We're very chill.
Also chill. He's very chill. I think like related to sports or anything that I'm passionate about, I can get pretty.
He's very competitive. Most competitive person I know.
Just like with reading, the more you practice anything, the better you get. I've been boxing for about 5 years. It's a great lesson for me as a teacher to pass on to kids that when something's tough, sometimes the only way through is by leaning in.
Okay. Four straight.
So this whole series is from a middle school. Yeah, this one's about a crush. Shocker. I have been a teacher at American Indian Magnet School for 8 years. I've been here my whole time as a teacher. I think the main thing that drew me into teaching is I'm deeply curious about people, and kids as people are just endlessly fascinating. That I get to spend all day being around like the purest form of humans. I think it's something that's made me a better person. One of the things I love about teaching the most is you're never done learning how to get better at it.
Well, one challenging thing about English is that we have 2 sets of vowels to keep straight, okay? So we've got our short vowels and we have our long vowels.
I've had students who aren't in my groups ask, like, what are we doing here? And I'm honest with them. I tell them we're learning how to be stronger readers. No one's hiding what we do in here. And to me, there's a million reasons why students may not have what they need as far as reading goes at this age. And almost all of them are things we can fix. This is a place where we find those pieces that are missing and we give them to kids.
Read, Shine. You guys shine. Awesome job.
The way I see it, literacy is just intertwined with so much of daily life. If I take a middle schooler's current life, they're moving from class to class, being exposed to lots of vocabulary that's, subject specific. They're being asked to take in information, process it, produce information, and without the skills to be able to read, comprehend, and write, each of those moments becomes a stressful situation. I think about like a student, who's out to sea, and instead of asking for a life raft, they're just trying to tread water. There's an urgency in middle school to really equip kids with the things they need to succeed as they become more independent, both in school and outside of school. That can be a challenge. And I think there's also a challenge of knowing we can only give one piece at a time. There's a lot of different threads to reading that need to come together in a student's mind. So just having the patience to put one piece in and trusting that students are gonna be on a road with a lot of other helpful adults that will augment what we've begun here. What has become very clear to me is that every reader is a different combination of strengths and needs, and every student needs to be understood before even those pieces can really fit into their why. I can be perfect at the curriculum, but if I don't know my student, it won't matter. Relationships are the foundation, and then my ability to connect a student to the type of learning they need and set a pace that feels challenging without being stressful is kind of the rhythm that needs to happen. There are students that it's been 2.5 years and they've completely transformed because it took a little longer, the path kind of wove and we were figuring each other out.
Read. Does anyone know what this word means? No. A swine is another word for a pig, okay? So we're gonna be hearing about swine in our reading today. Swine, nice job. So just notice, even though you didn't know this word, you knew how to say it, okay? That's powerful, that's what shows how much you're growing.
If we were just to give students things that are cut and dry and say, sound this out, and this one breaks the rules, so don't worry about that one. Their greatest, most beautiful question is why? What I'd like this to be is like where they're walking around school knowing a lot more about the language than even their teachers do. So for example, we've been focusing lately on how English is a language that's borrowed words from lots of languages. People say English breaks the rules and English doesn't have a rhyme or reason. And that's not actually true. It's because we have so many influences from other languages. So we're doing a culture fair project right now on all the place names in Minnesota that are really Dakota words. So they're not just walking out with basic skills, but they're walking out feeling like they're experts on language and experts on how words work.
Fig.
Excellent.
Hands. Wait.
Nailed it. Trust yourself, you got this. I love seeing the moment where students go past what they thought they could do and the confidence that starts to just flow out of them. It's like that's the magic. It's like so amazing to watch kids come to life and being a witness to them exploring their world, figuring out who they are, especially in middle school where, I don't know if you guys remember middle school, it's a hard time. I like to call it the cocoon stage because it's painful growth and there's a lot coming at kids. And in this moment, they start to take their first adult steps. And watching kids make those first steps is, I don't know, it's incredible.
Saying its name, E.
School, if we're doing our job right, prepares kids to step into a bigger world, whatever world they choose. And one thing I tell kids in this room is there's a love of reading and I hope that they reach it. But before that, I just want them to feel confident about reading and feel secure in their abilities to read so that whatever door they want to open, they can.
What we're doing, it matters. It changes how their brain thinks. It changes how their brain processes information, especially when they're reading, and it changes their thinking. And that's what's the beauty of like school, is the kids get to come here and they have a whole team of people that are there to help.
It takes a village to get a child where they need to be in their journey.
It's a complete collaboration, like an orchestra maybe. If we each are playing our instruments and we're playing it correctly and doing our individual jobs, something beautiful comes out of it. And that's what I love so much, is like, it's just not me. I'm just like one little snippet in the school of something greater to help the kids. I'm just like maybe the drum, and that's kind of boring, or maybe like the flute, which is kind of like high. I don't want to be the flute. The saxophone. I like the saxophone. I'd be the saxophone.
There are Amazon bags. You'll grab a bag, middle school needs 2. And then the blue table signs are for middle school, the yellow table signs are for elementary. Our preliminary data is showing really great results, and the best part is teachers believe.
In 2021, 30% of our kindergartners were on track or proficient in reading at the end of the school year. After having access to WIN support for 3 years, this same class of students increased their reading proficiency to 40% by spring of 2023.
Over 3,100 SPPS students received WIN support during the 23-24 school year. Based on screening assessments from fall of 2023 to spring of 2024, 90% of these students showed typical or aggressive growth. Our middle school students are passing the MCAs for the first time ever. So kids who are in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade who would have been taking the MCA scores are now passing the MCAs by the time they get to 8th grade. I've gotten more emails from families who are like, I see evidence that you're teaching my child how to read.
Obviously, we can look at like our data, right? Like our screening assessments, things like that. But it's those more anecdotal type of conversations that are happening, like when people tell us like they've never had their kindergartners reading and writing like they are at this point of the school year. And so I think when their colleagues hear that and they see evidence of that, like that just gives everyone more motivation to be like, all right, I want that for my students too.
I think what she does is amazing. She makes a huge impact, and I know that's because I see it through my kids.
What I like about her most is that whenever I was having a bad day, she would always be like, hey, what's wrong? Do you need to talk or anything? She'd be very caring. She would always try to help me with my problems. Like, she's just very sweet.
We all started out in a spot of not knowing where we would go as teachers and as students entering this program. And I think what really has stood out is that no matter where they're starting from, I know the ladder steps, and it's built so that kids can feel that ascension, that, oh wow, like at the start of the year, this was something that made my brain hurt. And now by December, oh, I've got this, and look at all these new books I can read and all of these new skills that I can show off. Every little step not only builds their skills, but builds their belief and builds their comfort taking on challenges.
How would you describe this person?
She's really, really nice. She hugs us and says that you're gonna do a good job, but all you gotta do is focus and practice a lot, that you can do it.
I am proud of all of my students. I am optimistic and I'm excited for what the future has to hold, partly because the READ Act is going to be training all teachers in the science of reading. And as more teachers know how to teach reading, I think that's going to change the outcome of how many students are reading.
We have over 1,200 educators participating in training this 24-25 school year, and there will be another wave of training in 2025-26. We are very optimistic about what the future holds for SPPS as we continue to work toward increasing reading proficiency for all students.
I have to say that I hope they keep focusing for other kids' sake, because it's definitely made a difference in my daughter's life. So I think that they're on the right track as long as they continue.
In St. Paul Public Schools, we forged a path. And I think that path, even in year 4 now of doing this work, we're talking about how do we anticipate where the work goes. Our theme this year is to be curious. And this theme really caught not just me, but other people, because students start their careers very curious and very excited about learning, and just the wonder of learning to read especially is like magic. And when you get to middle school, there's all kinds of other challenges in your body, and it can start to feel risky to be curious. So my hope for this year is to reignite that curiosity.
I believe that learning is a collective process. Our students need to know that people are invested in their futures, but I think young people also need to know that you play the greatest role in your educational experience. What's most important is be aware of what you're not aware of and start to question, what are you called to do? What is your call to action? What is your moral imperative? What are you seeing? What are you not seeing? And what do you need to go figure out, or where do you need to go ask some more questions so that you can see something that you haven't seen or maybe even heard before in your life?
Grandma reminded her often that being named justice came with great responsibility. That's a big word. What does responsibility mean? Can someone help me? Or you're like, no, change my mind. Oh, I'll take one. I might take that dress. That's beautiful. What is responsibility?
It's for when you take stuff in your hands.
Oh, there you go. Let's give her a round of applause. When you take stuff in your hands,
I want people to come together. There's no issue too big to solve. That we come together, and if we're talking about the reading crisis, we identify the causes. We can talk about it and everyone will have an opinion. But instead, that we focus our time on what outcome do we want. If we want 100% reading proficiency, growing justice is asking them the strategies, once we have that shared vision, the strategies on how we do that. So if I think about the call to action, I think about in that notion that Miss Mary Kay Boyd, our fellow Rondo native, talks about all the time. Everybody in, that everybody has a responsibility to, when we see a problem, we create a solution. And that is about right now, and it's about a pertinent issue that impacts us all.
It's going to take leaders to step up and really recognize what the problem is so we can fix it. It's not just going to go away in a year. It's going to take time. It's going to take hard work, and it's going to take commitment. When teachers are willing to collaborate and work together for the good of a student, anything is possible.